Welcome back, everybody, to the WoodsTalk podcast with me, Pound Shop Rick Moranis, Rory Woods, and my special guest, Jim of Mc Morrow. Namaste. How's it going?
How are you, mate?
I'm all right, man. Very, very nice to see you. I don't think I've seen you since I got married. I hashtag
Yeah.
on the actual day itself because you were one of two people who filmed my wedding. God bless you, going to Strabane and not catching fire.
Oh no, it was a lovely day. I wouldn't have missed it. It was a hell of a show.
Yeah. Have you been to Strabane before or after that for any reason? I'm curious. Everybody seems to have been like, oh, we drove through it to go to the Asda on the way to Donegal.
I'm not. Well, maybe it's just because of COVID, but I haven't been back.
That's a very good excuse.
I'll use COVID as an excuse.
Co-
It's a swinging place.
yeah, COVID is the ultimate excuse. Now that, particularly because places are reopening, you might get messages from people that you weren't that keen on pre-COVID, and then you realise during COVID that they were ball bags, and then they're like, "Do you want to go for coffee?" And you're like, I'm not comfortable." Do you know what I mean? That's all you have to say. Keep it vague. Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
Not comfortable. Do you know what I mean?
true. It was a bit of a dream for me to sort of have an excuse to like not go out and stay home and watch Blu-rays all the time.
Yeah,
I missed the lockdown days.
yeah. I almost got like, I felt the same, but I think maybe since January this year, I kind of felt a bit antsy to try and do something different because I was like you, I was happy enough. And I don't know if you're like me, maybe because of the field you're in, which we'll get into. I have this fucking horrible habit, and I wish I could stop it. When I get, say, a lockdown or even a weekend to myself, I designate all the things that I'm going to watch that I have yet to watch, and I never watch them. Do you know what I mean? We're like, I'm going to start The Sopranos. I'm finally going to see blah, blah, blah. Going to watch this. Going to get stuck into this. And you just end up watching Demolition Man, Beverly Hills Cop. And It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia again. And you're like, for fuck's sake.
Well, I mean, watching Demolition Man isn't a bad thing, but
Not
like
at all.
it's with also I think it was even worse. It was kind of like for some reason you find yourself kind of watching reruns of Made in Chelsea, and like it's almost like it's what I imagine self harm would be like, because you just kind of sit there and you're just going, I don't know why I'm doing this to myself. Where's Al Qaeda when you need them? But
Yeah.
but by the end of the episode, you're kind of going, like, do you know what? She does not deserve him. I think that he's playing her for foot.
Yeah. I have to say, I found myself in that situation many a time where Lisa put something on, and the first couple of minutes, I'm like, this is fucking bollocks. I don't even want to be in the same room as this. And then about 10 minutes in, you're going, oh, you trout, you're a fucking trout. Do you know what I mean? You get really into it. Like Made in Chelsea, Teen Mum USA, anything to do with like gypsy brides, I'm all over it. I'm all over it.
Catfish as well. Sarah Jane's a big, you know, every time she's in, she just has like this sort of montage of like the best catfish reveals. And as you're walking past, you find yourself kind of doing double take and going like, wait, hold on, maybe one more, just, and then an hour goes in your day.
Oh man, I have to say, like Catfish it's very much like the old school Power Rangers TV show where it just went to the same formula. Do you know what I mean? It was like there was all the same way. Like they're going to fight someone, and then it doesn't work out, and then he gets bigger, so they get bigger, and they beat the fuck out of him, and then they go for milkshakes. Do you know what I mean? It's the same with Catfish. It's just the same thing, but it works. Do you know what I mean? There's some creepy bastards out there.
It's like the show Cheaters. Do you remember that show?
I don't remember. Explain for anybody that might not know what Cheaters is. I'm sure it's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically like a hidden camera show where a spouse will come and say, "Well, I think my other half is cheating," and due to the nature of the show, they always are. And,
That'd be shite if they weren't.
it would just be, every now and again they might break the formula and say, "Oh, turns out they weren't." But
Yeah.
it's this. Do you know what you really, really need to watch? Because I can't really explain it except to say that it's directed, written, produced, executive produced for some reason, and the theme tune was composed by the same guy who just has one of those sort of Italian porno names from the 70s. And the sexy guitar solo in the theme and stuff. I really highly recommend it, just for pure trash.
I'll have to scope that out. I'm just trying to think now of this Italian guy's like a Pornish sort of name, Gianluigi fanny smacker or something like that.
I don't remember what it is now, but I remember like taking note of it back a few years ago and going like, well, that's the name.
Yeah,
That's one for the future kids.
he's up there now with your Mount Rushmore of directors. I think like Carpenter, Francis Ford Coppola, Kubrick, and that guy.
Oh yeah,
It'll be
the
amazing.
Italian guy.
Because I suppose I should explain up top that for anybody that doesn't know, you are a director of films and you write your own stuff. Amongst, I know you've got like other things going on, but that's sort of your primary sort of passion in life, as well as filming weddings and Strabane to see incest live.
Well, we all have to pay our dues. um,
Yeah,
yeah, I try to be a filmmaker. But,
yeah,
some days are better than others.
I'd say so. I mean, I know one of your most recent projects, Upside, seemed to get serious response. Tell anybody who might not know what it's about and how it came to be.
Yeah, it's Upside's my fourth short film, kind of loosely based on true story of my nephew who was born with Down's syndrome when I was 7. So it's about a brother basically who wants to take his younger brother on his 18th birthday to a concert, and their kind of overprotective mum won't let him. Again, loosely based on a true story, because I kind of think that when Stephen was born, when I was 7, I was young and stupid, and I didn't know the implications of what Down syndrome meant. So I never had the intelligence to treat him with any sort of extra security. He was just my young nephew, and so I guess the film's kind of about that, just about kind of breaking the mold and getting people out there.
Yeah, I mean, despite the fact that obviously it's a sort of premise, it's very close to home. Was it difficult in terms, because did you write the film as well? You wrote the whole thing. Yeah. Was it difficult in the respect that, you have some sort of inside knowledge, but was there any part of you that worried that, outside communities where people with Down syndrome might sort of find it inaccurate, if you know what I mean? Like they might, it's a very hard subject to deal with, to make sure everybody who knows someone or indeed has it is happy with what you suggest about it. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think that that would be the worst thing in the world if you kind of offended anybody. But at the end of the day, it's my story. It's my own personal experience with Downs. Now, everybody is unique, even those with children born with Downs. But it's my story, and I just kind of wanted to tell it. So
yeah. So in terms of then, like actually writing a script and a treatment and putting it on the page, how long did it take? I mean, was there many rewrites or anything?
Not really. It was about I think it did like 3 drafts of the script, and then I was lucky enough, I sent it in to Northern Ireland Screen, who do a short, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 short film calls a year, and they sort of give me some funding for it.
Yeah.
And after that, we were just off and running, and it was wonderful. It was and kind of sad because it was we shot it 2019, and it was finished early 2020, and we were kind of getting this wonderful sort of reception and sort of local screenings and stuff, and then COVID hit and everything kind of went digital, unfortunately or fortunately. But it was nice, and it was just kind of like a nice throwback to that time, because everything shut down after that, in terms of filming. There was nothing to be done. So
yeah, I mean, it's so mad that we went through 14ish months of lockdown. I mean, when it comes to like telling future generations that we did that, they wouldn't believe you, or you wouldn't be able to put across how unusual it was. Because I dare say, even come Christmas last year, there seemed to be people that still didn't seem to understand why these things were in place, i.e. masks, social distancing, pubs being closed. They just didn't seem to grasp that this is very serious. I don't know if it's just because when you're from here, usually when you hear a bad news story, it's like in a certain area. Do you know what I mean? If it's like, if a bus is on fire, you can kind of gauge it's one area. Do you know what I mean? It's not all of Northern Ireland. Do you know what I mean? Whereas this pandemic affected the world, the fucking world. You know what I mean? And still some people going, why do I have to wear a fucking mask? You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things that like I kind of found with people that they were going, I think it's a great idea that they've closed my work, but hold on a minute, I'm really not for them closing my son's school. Like, you know, children.
Pick and choose. I wish they would close my work, but keep Thompson's open, keep the
That's
child's school open, and keep the Chipco open, and I'll be happy enough.
yeah, the lockdown is the most at risk places, like
Yeah,
my work.
exactly. It is so mad. I mean, you had how many screenings of Upside did you have before lockdown kicked in? Did you manage to get a
Uh,
few?
I think I got two or three, sort of worldwide, and then we got because we had one in we had a great one in Belfast, and then we had one in Texas, I think, went well, and then we had another one in Belfast, and then after that, lockdown kind of kicked in, and again, all the festivals went digital, so it was still being seen, but just not in an audience capacity, which was a bit of a shame.
Yeah, I mean, particularly the Belfast ones. I mean, was there an audience and stuff there that could see it? I mean, was that the vibe, or was there still restrictions at that point?
No, this was in January,
Oh,
so we
sweet,
were
sweet.
yeah, we were just around the corner from COVID. But
Yeah.
no, it was a great night. It was Film Devar. Don't know if you've ever been.
What's it called?
Film Devar.
Film Devour. That sounds so familiar to me.
I highly recommend it. If you haven't been, I
Yeah.
highly recommend it. It's great. Run by an amazing guy called Brian Mulholland, and it's just local filmmakers who just like put their films on, and we had a really big. It always basically sells out, so it was a packed out house in the Black Box, and
Happy
it
days.
got a really good reception, and also lovely to sort of see it in a cinematic capacity like that, even if it was just the once.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just trying to get in your headspace when it comes to things like that, because obviously, doing what I do, particularly if there's a mistake on my part, I'll feel the effect of it pretty quick, and then I can rectify it for the next time. But when you're screening a film, whether it's a technical mistake or even just something that you're not maybe a shot or something that you weren't 100% happy with, is it weird, being in a crowd of people and worrying, you know what I mean? Because you can't change it once the film is screened, it's etched in their heads. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's petrifying, and like it's funny. I don't smoke, but
Yeah.
every time I'm watching a film of mine, I have to have a cigarette. I feel like it's just sort of the new way to calm me down. And what's funny was like with Upside, the we had money, we had a budget, but it wasn't, when you're paying actors and crew and feeding them and stuff like that, it doesn't go a long way.
No, definitely not.
So we were no, so we were. I ended up doing a lot of the sort of jobs myself. I ended up like doing the music myself and doing the sound mixing and editing it and stuff like that. So whenever that first sort of thing hit, it was like, well, if it all goes pear shaped, a lot of it's gonna be on.
It's your fault.
But you know yourself, like as you say, I kind of guess that when you're making a short film or you're telling, you're doing stand up, you're trying to make everybody have the same reaction at the exact same time,
Yeah.
and sometimes it just works, and sometimes it just doesn't.
Yeah. I do enjoy the image of you contemplating smoking through stress, because I just thought of De Niro in Cape Fear. Do you know what I mean? That one bit in Cape Fear where he's smoking in the cinema. Isn't he smoking or
Yeah.
something like that? I'm just like,
No,
just you being a badass, or
it was funnier than that actually, because Sarah Jane had turned up. Our film was playing, Upside was playing last,
yeah.
and she was on a job, so she had kind of turned up late and turned up during the intermission when I was outside having my cigarette,
Yeah.
and I didn't have a lighter. So I was trying to light it with matches, and the wind kept blowing them out. And I finally got a lighter, and did. And she was down the chapel lane, kind of laughing her head off. And I was like, "What?" She goes, "You look like the most out of place person I've ever seen in my life." So I was like, "No, I'm totally cool."
Oh my god, I really can't. I can't get in that mindset at all of just sitting there, obviously, and I don't know. I know there's comedians that'll always say that no matter how big a crowd is, you always spot the one person that's sort of on the fence about whether they're enjoying it or not enjoying it at all. I mean, would you be the same, where you just focus on the one dickhead who, isn't liking it? I mean, that's a pretty horrible person if they don't like it, but do you know what I mean? Where like you just notice there's that one guy who's kind of on his phone a bit too much. You're like, you're a dick.
Yeah, yeah, oh, 100%, yeah, and like, but it was funny because my friend Peter, who he's a special needs teacher as I am, and he has a son with Downs, and he had turned up to the screening, and there was a bunch of people from Down Syndrome Association that had turned up, and so I was kind of really nervous, and I was going, okay, the sound, it's a good volume, it's okay, you know, it's in focus, we're doing well, well. And he kind of tapped me on the shoulder and he was like, have you seen the front row? And I was like, no. He goes, everybody's crying. And I was like, oh, okay, good. We're having a... And from that point on, I kind of just breathed and was like, you know what? It is what I suppose. I mean, I could ask you as well. I mean, if you think something's funny, are you proud? Like, you proud of it? Do you just kind of go, well, do you know what? Live or die, I own this joke and I like it.
Yeah, there's definitely a parallel there. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, I mean, I suppose in terms of both of what we do, you can't think too much about. I suppose you do have to consider it, but within reason, that you have to find that balance of, you know, keeping your target audience happy whilst not losing your identity. Do you know what I mean? The stuff that makes you you. Do you know what I mean? So the way you would do things, you don't want to go, oh well, what if this person in Portadown doesn't like it? You can't think that way. Do you know what I mean? You have to kind of go, well, this is the way I want to do it, and then think about the people it's aimed at, and try and find a nice balance. Not always easy, but if you pull it off, it's a very decent feeling when everybody's, you know, on the same wavelength. I mean, the fact that you had the people in the front row who reacted that way. I mean, I know that you're not like sinister enough to be like, I hope everybody fucking cries. But I mean, I know you want people to sort of resonate with it for sure. Like,
but no, I am a bit sinister like that.
Hand out tissues and all. There you go. You better fucking like. Why are you not crying?
I was actually kicking them under the table. in your line of work, do you kind of feel like, because I know that I do, that any sort of lack of success you get completely trumps, and like I could be sort of nominated for 5 awards and do this and do that, but if you don't get into one festival, it's like, see, I told you it was crap, I knew it. You know?
Oh yeah, I have to say, like, in terms of sort of being very critical of myself, yeah, I would be the same sort of vibe. Even on, like, if I do a set at an open mic and I do 8 new bits, 7 of them get rounds of applause and 1 doesn't, I'm like, that last bit's fucking shite, I should fucking quit, that's fucking terrible. Do you know what I mean? But I think that's a good thing, to be hypercritical. I think if anything, I'm a wee bit too much sometimes. I don't know if you feel the same, but I feel, you know, I should maybe not pat myself on the back a wee bit more, but be a bit more relaxed about it. But I think it should be something that you should be aware of, but keep it within reason. And you know, I mean, I say again, filmmaking just must be one of those things that it's so finite to me that once it's rendered and it's up on a screen in the black box, you know, that's it. And, you know, you really can't do anything about it. You know what I mean? Unless you're fucking, you know, like releasing the Snyder cut version of Upside. You know what I mean? You're like, you know, because that seems to be a thing now.
Special editions.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, and I love the idea of you just hoping that people are crying. Do you know what I mean? Just, there's one person that's not crying and you're like chopping onions beside them all. When you're ready, dickhead. Yeah. It must be cool, man.
You just kill a puppy in every movie you've got.
Just every so often, Marley and me, all the sad bits. Bambi's ma dying. Everything. Do you know what I mean? Oh my god! But that's good, man. I mean, the response seems to be mad. It seemed to get into a lot of festivals, and it was very widely well received. I mean, what's that like? I mean, because as you say, when it gets into another festival, you must be back to square one, going, what if they don't like it?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Well, it's new for me. I'll tell you that, because usually my previous shorts have all I guess they've all been horror. I described my first short as a comedy, but I was reliably told by everybody else that I was wrong. It's actually a horror. But yeah, so I've only kind of done horror, and horror, you know, it's a tough genre to really nail, and what works for one audience doesn't work for another one.
True.
You know, across the board. So to have something that finally kind of like across the world, you know, from, you know, because we played in Bosnia, we got a screen in Bosnia that went well, and we won a few awards in America, and you know, so it was just like, okay, well, this is like a universally liked film. I've never had this before. This is interesting.
Yeah, I wonder if my bit about Colchis wanking would do well in Bosnia. I wonder for some Bosnian fella going, that's funny, I like that bit. We must get into some films then. You've said about horror. I'll ask you a couple of random questions just to try and get a scope of where you're at in terms of what films you like. You don't have to name one, but you can give me a few and we can try and get into it a bit more, just to see where you're at. So, top 5-ish films of all time as it stands.
Jesus. In terms of favorite ones, Halloween number one.
Yeah.
Number two, Shawshank Redemption. 3, It's a Wonderful Life. 4, Raised in Arizona.
Oh, very nice choice there. Like that.
And 5, maybe Inception. I don't know.
Yeah, that's nice. We list.
I'm surprised that list myself.
Yeah, yeah, because I always feel like I'm putting people on the spot, but sometimes I think when you're on the spot, you come up with answers that you ordinarily wouldn't have. You know what I mean? If I had asked you to prepare answers for that question ahead of time, it mightn't have been the same list. The horror aspect of the thing obviously alluded to Halloween there. Do you think there's an element trying to do horror films these days because everybody's at different levels of like how desensitized they are? You know what I mean? Some person could find Get Out terrifying, whereas someone else would be like, no, I liked it, but it wasn't scary. Do you know what I mean? Do you think that's a difficult thing to deal with? Everybody's so different.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I think that it's, and people are, there's a lot of versatility in horror. Like you hear a lot of people kind of saying, oh, I'm not scared by ghosts, but I'm terrified by maniacs with knives, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of subgenres within that genre that again, it's, I think to be scared is universal as an emotion as it is to laugh. But true. I think that it's yourself. People laugh at different things in different cultures, and people aren't scared by different things in different cultures.
Yeah, it's very true, man.
Making something as universally as sort of terrified as that is very, very difficult.
I'd say so. I mean, would you say you've been scared by a film that came to the cinema in the last couple of years? Because I still feel there's been a few sort of good shouts in terms of horror, but it just seems to be heavy, like everything, heavy on sequels and prequels and spin-offs, and The Lamp that was in Insidious is getting its own fucking film, and do you know what I mean? There seems to be a lot of that vibe. I mean, for me personally, I know the last film that I was scared-ish at, and bear in mind, I'm a jumpy guy anyway, and I went to see this in the cinema in the movie house, and literally covered Lisa in popcorn because I just went, look out there. It was The Woman in Black was the last time, and I thought it was class. Since then, there's been a few sort of minor jump scares in a few films, but what would you say is the last film that scared you properly?
I think I have to say it's been a while since I've like really taken something home with me like that.
Yeah.
I'm struggling to actually think. I mean, there's been a lot of films that have come out over the years that I really admire as horror films, but I admire them from like a filmmaking perspective rather than a sort of that was really, really scary, I'm taking that home. In all honesty, I think the last one was probably when I was a kid watching maybe like The Fog or something like that.
Oh, that's cool.
Something really that unsettling.
Yeah.
But I might jump in the cinema every now and again, but I've never really taken it home and kind of. Oh, actually, I tell a lie. I remember I got a bootleg copy of Exorcism of Emily Rose.
Right. I haven't seen that.
That's a good show. And it was one of those ones. I was living at home, and my mum was still with us at the time, and I was in my bedroom, and there's a whole thing about waking up at 3 a.m. because that's like the devil's hour, and I woke up one night at 3 a.m. and it's just like doing that thing in my head where I was like, there's no such thing as a devil. don't say that, Jim. That means the devil will come. And then, like, after 10 minutes of kind of doing this here in my head, going, like, I wonder, I might just knock my mum's door and
Yeah.
just let her, just make sure that
Yeah.
she's there.
Yeah. Just make sure everything's all right. Do you know what I mean? She,
Exactly. She'll just make sure she's listening, and she'll protect me from
yeah.
this.
She'll knock his bollocks in. Whatever comes in here, she's beating the fuck out. Do you know what I mean? God forbid, it's like any horror icon that tries to deal with an Irish woman in the middle of the night. You don't wake any woman, but an Irish woman. I don't care if you're Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger. I don't care who the fuck you are. You're getting your Voldemort. You're getting your bollocks knocked in for sure with a Harley bat.
And I would go one further and say that waking up any woman, an Irish woman, and an Irish mother, that's the triple threat right there.
Oh, that's the holy trinity of.
They take care of their own.
Yeah.
Irish mothers are like eagles. They're beautiful and graceful, but they'll rip your fucking eyes out.
That's exactly. You don't fuck with them, but very very pleasant on the eye. You know what I mean? A nice beak on them. Oh my god, yeah, that's like the horror thing. I mean, horror seems to have a touch of a resurgence through Jordan Peele. I kind of feel he's kind of, obviously he's heavily involved between Get Out, Us. There was that thing I think he was involved with, Antebellum or something. I think it was called very recently, and then I think it's been cancelled now. But he was involved in like the Twilight Zone reboot, remake TV show, which some of it was quite good actually.
Yeah, and I think he's executive producer on Candyman and stuff. So.
Well, that's right. Yeah, Candyman's coming out. Was it supposed to come out and then was delayed because of COVID? Fuck's sake. Do you know what I mean? Like, have you been to the cinema since cinemas have reopened?
Yeah, Sergey and I went to see double bill of A Quiet Place 1 and 2.
Oh, very nice.
Sunday.
What was that like?
Good. It's really good. It's brilliant, actually. Yeah.
I've seen the first one. I'm hearing really strong reports about the sequel. Krasinski's turning into a very sort of competent dude in terms of building tension. From what I hear, like the first one was great, and it had no right to be good, and yet it was.
Yeah, no, I think the second one's just as good. So it's and from someone who loves the first one, that's quite a compliment. Yeah, as much as I do.
Well, I suppose like any genre, sequels are very difficult. I mean, in terms of horror, the last sort of sequel that I thought was shite, and apologies if you disagree, but It Chapter 2 was too long, boring, and people were getting all excited. McAvoy's in it, Bill Hader's in there, and Jessica Chastain, and I'm like, yeah, but the clown's barely in it. Where's the fucking... Do you know what I mean? You can actually tell, man. I don't know if you noticed this. Is it Bill Skarsgård? Is that his name? Plays Pennywise. Yeah. When he was doing the press tour for the first It, he's on Jimmy Kimmel, Colbert, and some Graham Norton or whatever, buzzing, pure buzzing, big role, and he did a fucking great job in the first one. I like the look. I like this whole vibe. Then you look at him doing the press tour in the second one, ahead of it coming out, and you can tell that he's like, I'm barely in this. He has no enthusiasm. They're like, what do you think about the sequel? Aye. Do you know what I mean? It's like when you see the Game of Thrones cast talk about the last season before it was released, and they're like, yeah, we're very excited, and it's going to be quite a finale.
Yeah, you're gonna have an experience.
You're going to be raging, basically. You know what I mean? Same with like some of the cast of like the Rise of Skywalker. You could tell they were just going, this is shite. Nobody's going to like this.
Especially the Game of Thrones one that you're talking about there. Like, it's amazing to think. So I remember watching that series as it was progressing and going, am I just not... I mean, is this just me? And then you'd like turn on the internet, you'd go on Facebook or something like that there, and it would just be like, oh, it's not just me. This is like universally hated.
From being a show that was so... Again, I'm not a massive Game of Thrones guy, but I admit that there was times it was very good. You know what I mean? I didn't think it started particularly well. I don't remember the first season being that great. And then it kind of found its feet a wee bit and then got quite good and then kind of dipped for me. But I was just going, for the amount of money that was spent on it, and, they got all the time in the world to kind of pump out this last season. And probably, if the last season had been good, it probably would have went down as maybe one of the most, like, talked about shows of all time. Maybe. I don't know if it would have broke, like, top 5 or anything, but it would have been in the conversation. and then they just, it felt like they did it in about 10 days. Do you know what I mean? They
Well,
really
that's
just
funny.
fucking.
That was the season I actually got a job on.
Oh
I
really?
was, yeah, I was working in the camera department as a camera trainee.
Oh really?
Yeah, and I saw the amount of production that was going into that there. So I was
Yeah.
like, and like I guess I can talk about it now because it's been out. But like I was there whenever they blew up King's Landing and the
Hmm.
gates and stuff like that. I was working on one of the camera teams during that day, and
Yeah.
I was like, this is going to be the most epic thing anyone has ever seen.
Yeah.
And then when it happened, I was just like, yeah.
I
Why
mean,
isn't that as epic as it was when I was there?
I'm wondering in terms of, see, I do feel it was fundamentally very rushed, and any of the decent bits, which are few and far between for that season, they seem to be so short. And you're just wondering, as you say, I mean, you were there for good chunks of it. I mean, there was loads of money spent, a lot of effort put in. I'm sure there's a lot more footage of those sort of signature sequences, and they were probably cut to shreds. I don't know why, because it felt like HBO were very much like, here's money, keep her lit, you're doing well, all the freedom in the world. There's not really, didn't seem like there was a lot of studio interference for them to,
Yeah.
rush it or anything. And suddenly it's like, I always equate it to like, the bit in American Werewolf in London where he changes,
Yeah.
the amount of footage that they shot compared to what got in the film, for all that effort that Rick Baker fucking put in, he's sitting there going, for fuck's sake, I'm wrecked. And it's about fucking a minute and 10 seconds. And I'll be working for 6 weeks trying to get this
Yeah.
guy to look like a fucking canine. I kind of
It,
equate it to that. Where you're like, you must be raging.
it's so true. I think one of the days that I did on Game of Thrones, I'd say I was camera trainee, and I think we arrived on set about 8 in the morning, and put the camera on a crane. Crane was ousted, 100 feet in the air, and tilted down, and then we sat around waiting for about like 6, 7 hours maybe, just kind of sitting waiting. Literally, they went, okay, roll the cameras, and my camera operator hit record, and they blew up the gates, and then they went cut, and we were like, okay, that's a wrap. Thanks everybody.
Fuck me. That would, man, like I've done a few things that I've been in that was similar to that. We were like told to be there for a certain time, and then 8 hours later, you're just sitting there going, am I going to do anything? I just have this vision of you putting the camera on the crane and then just watching cheaters on your phone. That's what it is. Do you know what I mean? Just
That's exactly what it is.
dirty bitch. Dirty
Yeah.
dick chewing bitch. That's what you are. You fucking tried.
I actually ended up spending my wages it was funny. I was like, it was 2018, so the latest Halloween was coming out, and I was just like, I wonder how much the Halloween mask is, and it turned out it was pretty much exactly what my wages were going to be that day. So it was just like I just blew all the day's money on one mask as I was.
That's. I have to say, you've alluded to it a few times, but obviously, like myself, you're a huge John Carpenter guy. Is Halloween your favorite Carpenter film?
Oh yeah,
Right. So in terms,
it's a choice, but like
yeah, I mean, he's done. I kind of feel bad for him because I always get the vibe. The odd time that you hear him interviewed, he seems cool. I think he just seems to smoke weed and play video games now. I think God bless him. And you can tell that he's kind of like, I appreciate that you like the films, but most of them made fuck all money. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? He's like, I appreciate you love them, but really, it financially didn't benefit. Most of the time, it didn't benefit me, and he got fucked a few times. And it's a shame to see someone who's obviously so good at what he does kind of get disillusioned with the whole Hollywood vibe. Do you know what I mean? Where he was like, fuck this. And fair play to him, he has stuck to it. As much as I would like to see him back directing something, the minute that he bounced, he was like, yeah, I'm not doing it anymore. And he hasn't. I mean, that must be hard to, because he's probably been offered some shite. Do you know what I mean? He's probably been offered The Hills Have Eyes 8 or whatever. You know what I mean? They're pretty definitely got a tweet at some point, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think he's definitely a man of integrity, and I think that for me it's kind of sad because he had a really great run. He did Salt and Precinct 13, Halloween, The Fog, Escape from New York, and then did The Thing, which now we all think is one of the greatest sci-fi horrors ever made.
Yeah.
But at the time, destroyed his career, and ever since then, he never was really able to come back.
Yeah, he never. never recovered. I think didn't the thing there was like a timing element for the thing as well. I think I remember reading that it opened around the same time as like E.T. or something,
Yeah.
and there was like poor timing, and you're like, oh, for fuck's sake. So compared to E.T., I mean, that film would come across probably nasty. I don't like to use that word, but and compared to like that was everybody's vibe. E.T., which I think is shite personally, and he's got the wee light on his finger, and he's like, oh damn, fucking, who gives a shit? And when you go and watch the thing after, do you know what I mean? You're like, Jesus Christ, do you know what I mean? But I know that was your man Roger Ebert and his wee pal, didn't they sort of change their review at some point? Didn't they? Cisco.
Yeah, Cisco, Gene
Yeah,
Cisco.
Cisco's the guy. Cisco's, is that the guy that did the thong song? Cisco and Ebert moves like a truck. Baby, move your butt. Let me sing it again. That's the culture version. But yeah, they sort of were, you know, highly respected dudes in their field, and then they were like, actually, it's quite good. Do you know what I mean? I don't hear a lot of reviewers doing that. You know what I mean?
No, I mean, I think that it's kind of a shame because, you know, I think Carpenter was kind of ahead of the times.
Yeah.
A lot. But the problem is that, as Ridley Scott says, that's as bad as being behind the times, because you're not of the time, and therefore nobody wants you.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's true. That's a really cool way of describing him, because I mean, like, I was very late to the Carpenter thing. You know, I think the reason, I mean, even Halloween, I think I only seen Halloween like 2-3 years ago, you know.
What?
I don't know, it was just never in my wheelhouse. Do you know what I mean? Like, none of my mates, weirdly enough. Because the first thing I seen of Carpenter's was, I was told, you know the way in HMV, if you spend a certain amount, you get like a DVD for like £3 or something out there.
Yeah.
I was along with my mate Chris, and I can't remember what I bought, probably some Batman related, and he says, oh, by the way, you can get Escape from New York on Blu-ray for £4 if you buy something in here today. So I was like, right, looks cool. Didn't even know much about Kurt Russell at this point. So my first foray was Escape from New York, and then naturally you sort of get into the whole vibe of watching The Thing and Big Trouble and Prince of Darkness and stuff like that there. And I was like, this guy's good. Do you know what I mean? I like he does, like you, does fucking everything himself. Like, I'll do the beats, I'll edit it, I'll film it. Just fucking turn on that lamp and shut the fuck up and let me do it. Do you know what I mean? I like that vibe, because there's not a lot of people that would score their own stuff as well as, you know, do everything else. It's a rarity.
No, and scored so well. You know, that's the thing. I think there's maybe a few directors that would want to try it, but would just put out a lot of tosh. But his scores were absolutely iconic.
Yeah, I mean, I bought the Avon vinyl, the anthology John Carpenter themes. I struggle, you know, because obviously my favorite of his and my favorite films, Big Trouble, but I think it might be the theme from Starman. I think is really nice. I just think it's nice. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, that's nice. That's lovely.
Well, that wasn't him. Technically, that was Jack Nietzsche. But...
Yeah, and I really like, obviously, I think the Escape from New York theme is brilliant, but I'm not going to say I prefer the Escape from LA version, but I kind of do. It's kind of a bit more rocky, but a bit more drums and stuff. Do you know what I mean? I kind of like that.
Yeah, it's starting in the sort of early 90s. He definitely went through a bit of a guitar resurgence.
For sure.
You have, I think he initially, I read once before that he wanted Metallica to do the score for In the Mouth of Madness.
Really?
And yeah, and he couldn't get them to do it. But so he basically just went, okay, I'm going to compose a Metallica riff, and it is the most Metallica song.
It really is. Yeah, now you say that. Yeah. Holy fuck, yeah. That's fucking class.
Yeah, painfully obvious all of a sudden.
I mean, you went as far as a Carpenter fan. You've met the man, which I'm very jealous of. How did that happen? Like, what was the occasion?
It was he was doing a world tour of his themes in 2016, and he was in Dublin, and there was like a meet and greet thing.
Yeah.
And I kind of was like, okay, you know, I met the director Friday the 13th before that, and I was like, you know what, I can keep going here, and I can pay to meet John Carpenter, and I did. And it was so embarrassing on one level, and so amazing on another, because I was totally we were like, yeah, I'm really excited to see this concert, and you know, I bought here's my Halloween steelbook, I'm gonna get him to sign it, and coincidentally that year my short film Photobomb was playing on Halloween night on the Belfast Barge.
Oh, right,
and
cool. That's cool.
it was opening for The Fog, so they're going to play my short film and then The Fog,
Class, man.
and yeah, it was awesome. So I had a poster from the event, and I was just like, oh, cool, I'll get him to sign this and my Halloween Blu-ray, and we queued up, and I was very nonchalant. I'm like, yeah, this will be nice. Yeah, no, there he is, and I was like, oh fuck, there he is.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was like, it's what I imagine, like, Beatlemania and sort of, teenage girls meeting One Direction was like, because I started to like properly shake and slur my words and get very dry mouth, and I think I was probably last in the queue, and I got to the end and I met him, and he shook my hand. I was like, yeah, hello, big fan, and thank you. And I took a photograph and all this here. And he was like, calm down. That was the first thing. He was like, you can cool down.
Getting roasted by John Carpenter. Calm down, fuck.
I'll be good. And then he took my he took my Blu-ray and he signed it, and then he looked at the poster. He goes, what's this? And I said, oh, it's we're doing a John Carpenter Appreciation Month in Belfast, and it's all culminating on Halloween night, and we're playing The Fog on a barge, and my short film's playing before. And he was like, oh, that's amazing. And I was like, yeah, it's really cool. And he was just like, so The Fog's actually going to on a barge, like on a real barge, like on the water? And I said, yeah. And he was like, that would be amazing. I would love to go to that. And for some reason, I was like, really? Yeah. So I was like, I could get you a ticket.
I can get you in.
Went, no. Oh, sorry.
I love it. Just teed you up and mugged you off there. Oh my God.
Met his son Cody and his godson Daniel Davies, who is sort of our band.
Yeah.
And then went into the concert and had the best gig of my life.
So what I've seen like some sort of shite footage from those concerts, but it seems like he had the band, and then did he just play the theme from each film, or did he play any other parts of the score, or how did that work?
He played the main theme from a lot of them, and then he has his solo albums, like the Lost Themes albums.
Yeah.
He played a couple of tracks from those. It was a really, really good gig. Like I have to say, it was brilliant.
The class, man.
Yeah, it's funny to sort of like, I always kind of think back, to childhood, and you sort of go to yourself, it felt like a very lonely experience to be a Carpenter fan, and then you kind of turn up to a sold-out concert in Dublin with hundreds of others, and you kind of go, oh, I wasn't alone. This is nice.
No, I see what you mean, and see, since you've told me now it's in Dublin, I remember I could have went to that, fuck's sake, because I went to. Do you remember there was a place that did vinyls and like DVDs and all, and it was in Castlecourt for a bit. Head.
Oh, Head.
Yeah. So I was in there and I bought the like a limited edition single. It's like a black and white vinyl, and it's Carpenter. So one half is Escape from New York and the other half is Halloween. It's really cool.
Have it.
Yeah,
I have it on Sea-Free Red vinyl, signed by the great man.
Fuck's sake! I thought my black and white was cool, but Jesus no. But I got that, and then the guy in Head was like, oh, he's playing Dublin in a couple of weeks, and there's only a few tickets left, but if you want to hear some of the stuff live, and I don't know why I didn't do it. I'm trying to think back now. I could have went, but maybe I was like getting into Carpenter at that point, so it didn't seem like the be all and end all. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, if he announced a tour now for England or Ireland, I would go for sure. Like.
Oh yeah, I think he might. So of course, he's got a new album. So.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, he's still pumping out some sort of original stuff, which is really cool. But I mean, it's so weird that like I came to him, as I say, very late. I mean, what was your first experience of Carpenter? Would it have been sort of Sunday night, Channel 5 or something?
Oh no, it was I suppose fortunately my brother's 10 years older than me, so whatever he was watching as a kid, I was watching as a kid, and it was Halloween. It was
Eurotrash.
10-minute. It was
leave the room.
So it was like Halloween 1991. I watched Halloween for the first time, and it was just like, this is. It was one of those sort of things that like you sort of realized what a sort of powerful medium it was, because it was I love this movie, and then yourself, you have one experience and you go, oh, he's made more of these films, I must watch them. And then you sort of maybe do a bit of research and you go, and he did the music and he produced it and he wrote it, and okay, this is a man to be admired, and he did it all for like no money. This is a man to be admired. So
yeah, I think like money was almost like the animated John Carpenter, because it would seem after sort of wee bits of success, anytime he was given a lot of money, through no fault of his own, the fella, because I know like The Thing, there was a decent budget for The Thing, wasn't there? Ennio Morricone and all was hired to score it. I mean, there's a lot of money spent on that, the effects and stuff like that there. Now, as we say, somewhat tanked, and that's not even his fault. So the few times, like maybe when he's working with £25, he's unreal and he has all the luck in the world. But when they give him like a couple of million, they're like, this isn't going to work out. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't suit having money, because like even look at him as a dude, I don't think he even likes money. I think he's just like, I'll just wear a black jumper. Does he? Yeah.
He's a hardcore. He admits himself he's a hardcore capitalist.
Oh, really? Oh, that's cool.
I saw this really funny interview with him once before. They asked him about the Halloween sequels, and they said like, do you think they've kind of ruined the franchise? Do you think they? And he said, like they went in their own direction, and it, the first film is what it is, and I'm proud of it to this day and stuff. And he goes, but there's this amazing thing that happens whenever they decide they're going to make a remake or a sequel of one of my films, is that they tell me, I extend my hand and someone puts a check in it and I go, thank you.
See, I didn't think of that. I think maybe I probably assumed Carpenter wasn't into money, but maybe he just doesn't spend it on, like, I'd say he probably buys like loads of films, and like if he is into video games from what I hear, so I assume his gaming setup is fucking ridiculous. Maybe that's where he's spending his money. Do you know what I mean?
Maybe, yeah.
But do you think then, I mean, like, it is weird that how many times, I would say, obviously, he gets a few quid every time a Halloween sequel or remake is done, which is handy, because that's happened about 138 times. There's probably been 6 more since we started recording. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? And I mean, he's got obviously minimal involvement, like outside of the first, but I mean, there's over 10. Would there be over 10?
There's 11 now. So there's the 8 original sequels, the 2 remakes, and then the latest one.
Yeah, and there's two more, isn't there?
2 more after that.
It must be one person that's just waiting for it to be all finished so we can buy the Blu-ray box set. Do you know what I mean? He must be waiting, going, I'd like to own these, but in another couple of years there's going to be the extended box set where like, well, I've got the first 13, but I need the next 3, and you're like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Well, I was that guy. The company called Scream Factory brought out a box set of them all, up to the 2 remakes. It's beautiful, amazing box set that like you can't buy for love nor money now, and I got my thing of it, and it's just sitting on the shelf with the last Blu-ray just right beside it, because it's just not part of the box.
I don't know what it is, but stuff like that annoys me. Do you know what I mean? Where I'm like, oh, I wish I would have had the self-control to wait. But sometimes, it's a nice steelbook, or it's a very nice presentation box, and you're like, you know what? I've got 3 police academies in this box. And then I've got a VHS of Mission to Moscow. Do you know what I mean? Because of shit. It's like, I mean, Halloween, Jesus Christ. I mean, like, there's sequels, remakes, and then you think of how many films are sort of influenced, if not ripping off Halloween. But I mean, you had the 8 sequels, and then Rob Zombie didn't he do 2 or did he do 3? Yeah, he did 2. I haven't seen his second one. I've seen the first one he did because it's on YouTube, which means it must be good for free. I don't know, like Rob Zombie's a weird one for me, and that I quite like his music. I don't know if that's fucking embarrassing. No, it's more like 2003 to say I like Rob Zombie. I don't actually mind some of his films, but the Halloween, I mean, there was some of it that was okay, but I think he kind of missed the point a wee bit with his remake, and not giving Michael Myers a backstory and a sort of motive and a shit upbringing. And I was like, I mean, the whole point, the reason his first one was so good is because you didn't have a fucking clue. Is he superhuman? Why is he doing it? How the fuck can he move so fast? You know what I mean? Like, the whole mystery about it added to the character, whereas now he's just like, oh, his ma fucking sucks dick for money, and his stepdad's fucking perving on his sister, and he's a fucking whiskey drinking root, and the wee daughters fucking had more dicks in her than a Richard convention, and you're like, Jesus Christ, you know what I
mean? No, I think that it's like, for me, I remember watching it and kind of going, this seems like the type of movie that Rob Zombie shouldn't make, because he's someone who kind of, he's a rocker, he's a heavy metaler and stuff like that. He seems to be the type of guy who would be aghast if you said, your music will inspire violence.
Yeah.
And yet his Halloween is just filled with cliches. Like, it opens up playing, Kiss, and Michael Myers is wearing a Kiss t-shirt, and he comes from a broken home, and it just feels like as if it's like a Christian Aid film going like, if you become a stripper and you listen to heavy metal, this is what will happen. You know what I mean? It's very like a sort of after school special or something.
Yeah, you're 100% there. I mean, it's always rock music, that cliche as well. It's always like they're wearing, like, they play Kiss, so they're wearing a Kiss t-shirt. The Ramones is played, they're wearing a Ramones t-shirt. It's never the Venga Boys. It's never Cascada. It's never like Every Time We Touch and Sandstorm, whatever. Wearing a Darude t-shirt.
That would be amazing. Just like the next Halloween movie opens up and it's just like, they're just playing like Bob Dylan or like John Denver or something like that, and going.
Imagine just like the camera pans up to like, the new Mike Myers, which I have to say, I liked the bigger Mike Myers and Rob Zombies. I liked the fact that he was, what's the guy's name? And he Sabretooth in X-Men or something, wasn't he? He's a big unit. I didn't mind that, if I'm being honest. But imagine just the camera pan up, and then when it gets to the new mask and stuff, and it just goes, "It's Chico time." I'll be like, oh Jesus.
I would pay to see that film.
Amazing. Oh, I mean, that's one thing I noticed about some of the Halloween sequels. One of the later ones, the mask looks fucking shite. It's like it's fit. It's like tailor-made for him. It's like really thin neck and stuff. Like the new one's badass. I have to say that the new one, the 2018 Halloween, whatever year that was, that looks good. But there is one of the sequels, and you'll probably know which one it is, where it's like really dinky and really, it's too polished or something. Do you know what I mean? It's what one is that, 5 or 6?
I think it's 5. Yeah, it's got like a really sort of long neck that kind of curls out and stuff.
Yeah, I don't like that. Do you know what I mean? And it's hard to ascertain because there's so many. But there's like Halloween Kills coming out and Halloween Celiac and just so many. Halloween Diabetes.
Chico.
If Chico was in a Halloween film, I'm watching
Chico
it.
Years?
Yeah.
I would do that. Absolutely.
Yeah,
if I ever make a Hollywood, that's my first project.
I mean, in terms of like the Carpenter thing, is again, I always feel he's been slapped in the face a few times in that everybody wants to remake his stuff, and every time I hear about it, it seems just, I think it's a bad idea anyway, don't get me wrong. I'm not against remakes. There's been 1 or 2 that I quite liked. I didn't mind. I thought the Evil Dead remake, I actually thought it was alright. Didn't bother me.
No, it's good. I liked it too.
Quite liked it. But then you hear that like Escape from New York was being remade. At one point, the big rumor was, I don't even know if it was definitely a rumor, there was traction that Kurt Russell was interviewed about it, that Jared Butler was going to be the new Snake Plissken. And fair play, Kurt Russell was not happy. God bless him. Then I don't know who's the favourite now. I know Big Trouble is being remade and The Rock is involved. Yeah. I like The Rock, don't get me wrong, except for those fucking shite films that he's in. Fast and Furious and Lurgan or whatever the fuck it is. Like, I like The Rock, but I just feel like Big Trouble is like a lightning in a bottle film that shouldn't have worked, because how do you understand how to pitch a film? How the fuck do you pitch Big Trouble in Little China? Do you know what I mean?
I know.
Like, what genre is it? It's all genres. All the genres.
It's funny in Big Trouble, like, whenever the guys come down and they're kind of spewing lightning from their fingers and
3 storms
and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sarah Jane and I recently watched Mortal Kombat, and Raiden kind of comes out and does the same thing. It's like preposterous. But when it happens in Big Trouble in Little China, you're like, oh dear.
Yeah. Well, wasn't Raiden's look is heavily inspired by the 3 storms, isn't it? I still think to this day the lightning effects in Big Trouble are still some of the best ever committed to a film, honestly. But I mean, The Rock's remaking it, and then there is an Escape from New York remake, You know, I mean, the Halloween, the most recent Halloween, I quite liked it. If I'm being honest, how did you feel about the new Halloween? Before we go on,
I thought it was great. Yeah, I
yeah,
was a big fan. Again, touch lucky. I got an advanced. I kind of wonder sometimes whether I would like it as much because I got an advanced ticket to see it in Dublin. Jamie Lee Curtis was there,
oh
so I
really?
got the kind of yeah.
Did
I
you meet
got
her as
really.
well?
Sorry,
Did you meet her as well?
I haven't.
Oh,
I didn't technically meet her, but I was just at a Q&A with her afterwards, and it was. She just seems like the most amazing person.
yeah,
So of course I came out of it and was like, oh, it's the best movie I've ever seen, and you know. When we went to see it on opening night, me and friends, they were like, you didn't tell us about that ridiculous plot turn with the doctor kind of going nuts and killing the cop and
yeah.
stuff. And I was like, yeah, but Jamie Lee Curtis was there, so I don't see anything. I don't remember anything.
Well, I suppose it would be very ballsy if you had you have met Jamie Lee Curtis to be like, I thought it was shite. I thought you were shite in the original, but I enjoyed seeing your titties and trading places.
Well, you say that, but I can tell you an embarrassing story. I was saying earlier we met me and my friend Leo, who's another really really great director, big horror director. Um, we met Sean Cunningham, who directed Friday the 13th,
Yeah,
because
cool.
he was in Belfast doing a screening and a Q&A, and they were the good friend of ours, Jim McLean, who does Banter Flicks, had said to us, well, here, listen, you guys are like Belfast horror filmmakers, and you should get a photograph done and
Yeah,
talk. And we were like, oh, that would be amazing. And he was doing the Q&A, and we were sitting there, and I really wanted to ask him. I put up my hand to ask a question, and I really wanted to ask him why, how, because Wes Craven had just died,
yeah,
and I kind of wanted to ask him about, you work with him on Last House on the Left, and how was that and stuff. And he just says, right, we'll take one more question, and then we'll go to Jim over here, and I pointed to me, and the guy ahead of me says, "Oh, Wes Craven's just died. How does that make sense?" Oh,
fuck's sake.
So I had to kind of think of something on the fly, and I read this interview with Sean Cunningham where he said, I didn't know Friday the 13th was going to be successful. I wasn't very creatively invested in it,
Yeah,
and so again, they came to me, and I was like, right, you got to think of a question right now. So I just went, I read an interview once where you said you didn't really put a lot of creativity into Friday the 13th. If you'd known it was going to be successful, would you have tried harder?
yeah.
And there was this big sort of ooh in the crowd, and I was completely oblivious to this. And I'd said to him, after he kind of answered the question, I said to my friend, was that weird? And he was like, oh, no, it wasn't weird at all, Jim. You just turned to the director of one of the most successful horror films of all time and said, do you regret not making it more creative?
Do you regret your lack of effort into that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I've come to think of it, that was not good.
Man, I've been like, to be put in a situation where you had a brilliant question in mind and then some other dickhead took it before you. You're lucky, like, that you came up with a question as crowd splitting as it was. At least you had something that pertained to his life. Because if I had been in that situation and I had a question for, say, Carpenter, and I'm like, this is belting, and some dickhead took it, and then it just came to me, and I'd just be like, do you like jam buns, John Carpenter? do you ever like ham and cheese? No? I mean, that's the way I would speak, because I wouldn't even speak like a strong man. But like, do you think pick and mix has got very dear? It's got very expensive, and you weigh it and you think it's going to be about £2. It's about £11.
What's your favorite noise? Is it
Hey, John Carpenter, have you ever seen Cheaters? Have you ever seen that? Oh my god! Here, man, that'd be amazing. Like,
does anybody ever do that in the stand-up circuit? Anybody ever see your jokes?
What do you mean? As in like a heckle, or do you mean?
Oh no, like I mean, do you ever sort of go to Shane Todd or something backstage? I'm going to tell this really, really funny joke about
I
a
mean,
TV show called Cheaters, and he goes like, "Oh, fucking right."
yeah,
That's one of the books.
that does happen. Funny enough, but I mean, in the terms that like, if there's a big enough news story that breaks, you can just tell everybody's like a fly round shite around it. Like the last big example was, and I'm surprised that the crowd didn't go mad. And I was lucky enough that I had a very strong take on it. I can't remember if I did it in the Panic Room show and the Limelight. I can't remember if I did it. But see, when Jerry Adams released his cookbook, everybody every comedian was just like, oh, Molotov cocktail. Do you know what I mean? And everybody was coming up with all the puns, like fucking scrambled eggs and stuff like that there. And, you know, fucking, I was coming up with like, no, beef Sinn Féin and balaclavocado and stuff like that there. But everybody was doing it. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, there is a sort of, there is a similarity there. But, you know, I just wouldn't have the composure. And particularly if I met someone like Carpenter, or I don't know, I always feel like, you know, if I was ever, you know, interviewing people, that I would just ask the worst things. You know, like you've seen recently that like Emily Blunt was sort of semi pissed off that everybody was asking about the Fantastic Four. Do you know what I mean? Going, are you going to be in that? I'd be the type of dick to be like, don't ask that. And then she sits down and I'm like, oh, Sue Storm, what's the crack? Do you know what I mean? Are you going to be in the fucking... Ah? You know what I mean? I was
wearing your Fantastic Four t-shirt going like, oh shit.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Do you know what I mean? Like I always feel like I would ask the worst fucking things. Like John Carpenter, oh, what's Kurt Russell like? Do you know what I mean? I would just be one of those fucking dickheads. But I think, you know, there's a point that when you meet someone, particularly someone you admire, you know, even though they're just a human being, you have them up on this pedestal where you're like, you just lose all sense of cohesion as a human being. Do you know what I mean? Where you don't even know how to stand, how to sit, how to shake their hand, you know, and then you worry, like, are my hands sweaty? And you just don't know how to conduct yourself at all. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And you kind of, in a strange way, you kind of go like, I hope I've made a good impression, as if like he's going to remember you 3 seconds from now.
Is there an element to that because you're in the same field? Well, he was in that field. Do you ever just get that homogenized thing where you're like, I wonder if he's going to reach out and be like, here, I've got this idea, I want you to work on it. Do you know what I
mean? There's definitely a fantastical sort of element to me that kind of went when I presented that poster. It'd be like, oh, I'd love to see your short film.
Yeah.
And then he'd watch it and be like, oh, well, this guy is the future of horror. You know, I must employ him and you know, in Hollywood. Yeah. And then he just kind of signs his name on it and hands it to me, and I go off and he goes about his day.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm so jealous that you met him, but I'm kind of glad that in his own way he was cool, because imagine meeting him and he was a dickhead, man. Like you'd be crushed. You would be absolutely crushed.
Absolutely, no, it would be devastating. Funny, I think I've met a few of my heroes, and I haven't had a bad experience yet, so that's kind of nice.
Yeah, it must be. You know, it's just a weird thing. I mean, I don't know what I'm trying to say. There's just definitely something like that vibe. It's such an unusual situation to find yourself in that, you know, you just don't know what to say and how to behave and stuff like that there. It's fucking weird.
Have you never met any big heroes like that?
One of the biggest that I've met was Kevin Bridges. When I supported him, that was kind of one of the big ones. But he was just, it's kind of handy in stand-up because usually if it's before a gig, everybody's in the same frame of mind, just looking at a scrap of paper going, I wonder if this is going to work. No, regardless of level, everybody's got their notes and they're just looking at it. So it's more so after the gig, but he was lovely. So I think it's handier with comedians because, you know, you all have that sort of similar mindset. You know, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it's something like, you know, you're all fundamentally there to make people laugh. Where I suppose when you're a filmmaker meeting another filmmaker, if you meet a guy who makes, you know, Italian porn, you know, you still have something, you'll have some common ground, but not really.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We were like, no, he's making a calzone for a guy to put his dick in, and you're like, well, I lit the scene this way to try and to look like Nosferatu, and he's like, oh, this guy's ball bag, just I had to get it in frame, and like it's a different thing. Do you know what I mean? But when you've done horror, you've done a comedy that became a horror, you've done a very serious thing. Just to finish up, is Jim Mc Morrow going to do any porn? Is he going to direct any porn?
How do you know I haven't?
If you had to do John Carpenter porn parodies, talk to me.
Since we're nearing the end, you know, we'll do a Scooby-Doo ending and reveal who I really am. I am the man who makes cheaters.
Full circle.
We got away with it. Haven't been for you meddling kids.
Yeah. As long as you didn't say fiddling kids there, we're all good. Here, man, I have to say, I've enjoyed this. Hey, thanks very much for coming on and having a chat with me. Very nice of you.
Absolute pleasure, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
It should be out soon, so I'll tag you and all the necessary things if you want to give it a wee share. Where can people find what's the correct way Upside? Can people watch it online, or are you keeping it?
It's still out for festivals, but
Okay.
I'll send you a link anyway.
Yeah, any links that you want to send me, even the previous works and stuff too, you can fire them in the description. So again,
Perfect. Well,
and I'll put all your social medias and stuff too. Is there anything in the pipeline now that COVID's lifting, film wise? Are you just concentrating on Upside for now, or can you give us a sneak peek of the cheaters, Northern Irish cheaters, Northern Ireland style that you're going to do?
No, well, we've got my friend Margaret and I, my producer, we're lucky enough. We've got developmental funding from Northern Ireland Screen for a documentary.
Oh yeah, the Deborah Hill thing.
Yeah, the life of Deborah Hill.
Yeah,
So
that'd be amazing.
hopefully get that off the ground. People seem to be. It's one of those ones that's like you're kind of waiting on the stumbling block, because everybody's kind of said yes so far, and we're like, well,
Yeah,
hold on.
it's like too easy or something.
Yeah, this is when's the bottom gonna fall out here? So
Yeah, plain sailing is shite. It really is a shite feeling. Like, oh, plain sailing, as if people say it's a good thing. I'm like, nah, it's plain sailing until something goes dramatically wrong. Even if I was on a boat, I'm like, here, this is going to capsize any fucking time soon. And I was right.
Yeah, it's one of those ones because like I came up with the concept and Margaret took it to this company called Bluefinch and they were like, yep. And I was like, okay, that was easy. And then she took it to the screen and they were like, yep. And I was like, oh, okay. And then she took it to another company and they were like, yeah. And I was like, somebody say no here.
Yeah, you should just.
Now I'm gonna be like, oh, and then if they go to, you go, okay, we sent it to John Carpenter and Jamie Lee Curtis. If they say yes, we're a go, and they both go no, I'm just gonna be like, nah. It's just gonna.
You're on a hot streak, man. I say you just apply for some bank loans, go to a casino because you're on a hot streak, and you're gonna probably win the money to pay back the budget for the film. I can't remember if we mentioned the Deborah Hill doc before we started recording or not, but yeah, follow Jim on the social medias, and Deborah Hill that's a very niche but cool subject for a documentary, isn't it? Like I wouldn't assume that anybody would do that, but now you said it, I'm like, that'll be good.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because like she's just sort of through the research that we've been doing, it's amazing. She's one of these people that like had such an amazing impact, but nobody knows who she is. She's an amazing writer, amazing producer, champion of women in film, broke some amazing new ground in that territory.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like inspired, like kind of hired James Cameron early in his career and Chris Columbus, who went on to make the Harry Potter movies and Oscar nominated for Fisher King and stuff like that. And, but nobody knows who she is. And she passed away before, just as she was about to direct her first film. So it's just kind of one of those things where it's like, it's this ripple effect of, she had an amazing career and we're still reaping the benefits of it.
Yeah. Awesome, man. I really look forward to seeing how that progresses. All the links to your social medias will be in the description. Thanks again, man. We'll do a fake goodbye, and that's us done. Thanks again, man. Take it easy.
Absolutely. Take it easy, mate. Thanks very much for having me.
See you soon.